Hello everyone. All right, so the next program in chapter 4 is actually this is the last program in chapter 4. Write a program that uses nested loops to draw this pattern. Okay, so it's similar to the previous question, which was 13. It was also some kind of a right triangle, but this one we're supposed to draw this pattern. Now this is not part of the pattern. This is just to if I remove this, you see how it's displayed in gray, although nothing, it's really affects nothing. I just wanted to keep it consistent. That's why I put this there, just to keep it green. Oops. So I'll put it there again now. What am I doing? Okay. So this is the pattern we're drawing, exactly this, and not this. Okay, so it's going to be similar to like the previous one. So let me first start. Let's first analyze this this pattern. Well, we know that we have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. Okay, so starting from here, we know we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. And then, so at least we know the rows, right? So what is happening each time? Well, basically each time we go down one row is, for the very first row, it has no spaces between the two pound signs or hashtags or hash symbol. I'd say pound. Now when we go to the next row, we realize that there is a space, one space in between. So the first one has 0 spaces in between the pound signs. The second row has 1 space in between the pound signs. The third row has 2 spaces in between the pound signs. Fourth has 1, 2, 3 spaces. Fifth has 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, and then the last one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. So we can see the pattern too. We can see that the first row has 0 spaces, 1 space, 2 spaces, 3 spaces, 4 spaces, and then 5 spaces. And we know also that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. Okay, so these are a few details we know about this pattern. So we know we have 6 rows, and we know each time on each row the number of spaces increases by 1, starting from 0 spaces to 1 space all the way to the last. Basically each row, and each time we go to each row, the spaces increase by 1. So we're going to use this idea or this knowledge we know about this pattern to write the program. So since we have 6 rows, we're going to start a loop with six, which is going to iterate 6 times. Basically, we know that at least first of all, let's try to simulate the rows, right? So let's create a loop that's going to iterate 6 times. So I'm going to go ahead and create a let's see. Yeah, actually, I thought that's correct. Okay, so for row, in range, so I'm going to specify a range here. So for row is going to be our target variable, and the range I'm going to specify is going to be 6. Okay, it's going to iterate 6 times, meaning it's going to start from 0 to 5. Now this last ending limit is not included. Okay, so if you type in a range of 6, it's basically giving you a range from 0 to 5, which is six iterations, because when you start counting from 0 to 5, you have 6 iterations. So 0. Okay, so I'm counting. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, hold on. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so basically, what I meant to say is 6 is not included, right? So this is basically giving you a range from 0 to 5. So 0 to 5, when you start counting from 0 to 5, you have 6 items, or you have 6 iterations. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When you count those, you have 6 iterations. This last number, this number you put here, the ending, or basically, this number you put here is basically not included. Okay, so if you type in a range from 8, you're getting 0 to 7, a range from 0 to 7. The last number is not included. So for row in range 6, okay, meaning we are iterating 6 times, what we want to do each time is we want to first print a pound sign, because we know that each row begins with a pound sign. That's the first thing that happens, no matter what. Each row starts with a pound sign. So let's do that. Each time we iterate, let's print a pound sign. Let's go ahead and print a pound sign. So I'm going to print pound sign. And then I don't want to end it with anything yet, because on that row I know that I'm going to have another pound sign separated by nothing. Okay, but I want it to be dynamic so that each time it iterates, it knows how many spaces to put in between the 2 pound signs. But then let's now worry about the space and then the pound sign. Right now I know on this row there's no space, but we know that it starts with a pound sign and ends with a pound sign. So once we basically start the iterations, the first row is going to start with a pound sign. Basically, each time we start a new row iteration, the first row is going to start with a pound sign. So that's what we are doing here. Let's set the ending value, or basically the ending value of this print function to nothing, so that it doesn't, after printing the first pound sign, it doesn't take whatever comes after it to the next line. So we're ending it with nothing. And we want to start another loop, which is going to basically take care of the spaces in between. Okay, because we know that on each row we are printing a certain number of spaces, starting from 0 to basically the last, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Starting from 0 to 5 spaces. This statement over here, what's going to happen with this statement is the first time it iterates, the row is going to hold 0. The second time it iterates, row is going to hold 1. The third time is going to iterate, row is going to hold 2, all the way to 5. And like we said, 6 is not included. So we know row is going to hold values from 0 to 5, right? So now we want to go ahead and create, before that, let's also set the separator of this to nothing, because once we attach the second pound sign to it, we don't want it to be separated by a space. So let's set that to nothing as well. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's take care of the number of spaces. We know that the very first row has 0 spaces. The second row has 1 space separating these 2 pound signs. The third row has 2 spaces, and so on and so forth. We also know that row is going to hold 0, the first iteration, 1, the second iteration, all the way to 5, right? Now let's go ahead and create an inner loop which is going to take care of the spaces. So let's go ahead and say for column, you can name it spaces if you want. You can even name for spaces, okay, if you want. But let's say for column, should I say columns? I know I'll call this spaces. And then if it doesn't make sense, we'll change the name. But I think spaces works for now. So for spaces in range, now I'm going to use the variable row in place of, or basically as the argument passed into this range function. Why? Because range row we know it's going to hold values from 0 to 5, right? Basically, we want it to do something here. This is just a comment. So think about it. The very first time this loop, okay, let's start from here. The very first time that I iterate, it's going to, 0 is going to be passed into row, right? And then it's going to, basically that's the first iteration. We know this is iterating from 0 to 5. 0 is going to be passed into row. It's going to print a pound sign, and then it's going to separate and end it with nothing. So the case is still going to be here. And then we're going to jump into this loop. For spaces in range row. Now row, we know the first time is going to hold 0. And basically, the very first time, the value is going to be 0. For spaces in range 0, nothing is going to happen here. Nothing is really going to happen here. Remember the last number is not included. If you type in 1, then you're creating a range from 0 to, not even to 1. You only have a range of 0. If you have a value of 2, you're creating a range from 0 to 1. The last number, the number here you add or you type is not included. So if it's 4, you have a range from 0 to 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. Now we know the very first time row is going to hold 0. So if we type in row here, it's going to be 0, and nothing is going to happen because you are basically, the last number we know here is not included. So 0 is not even included. So nothing is going to happen for the first iteration of this inner loop. And that's exactly what we want. We want nothing to happen. In this for loop, what we wanted to do is we wanted to print a space. So for the very first time this for loop iterate, we're not leaving at 0, we're leaving it at a row. Row is going to hold a value. I just put 0 for the first iteration. So when it's 0, nothing's going to happen, because that last number we put in the range function, the number we put in the range function here is not included. It's one less than that last number. So nothing is going to happen the very first time. We want to go ahead and print a space each time this inner loop iterate. Okay, once we print a space, we don't want to end it with anything. So we are setting the ending value to nothing, because, for example, when we are in the second row and it prints a space, we don't want to end it yet. We want to go ahead and attach the last pound sign before we end it. So once you print the space, just wait. Don't add a new line character, or don't take the cater to the next line or the position to the next line. Just keep it there. So end it with nothing, and also don't separate it with anything. Change the separator to nothing, because we don't want you to print a space and also have another space. Okay, we don't want you to print a space and another space like this. To separate the space. Basically, we don't want you to print a pound sign and a space and then separate it with a space before printing this. We just want you to print this space here. Wait there. Don't end it. Don't separate it, and wait for us to print the last asterisk. The last pound sign. So that's what we want to do. But that's so row is going to hold 0 the first iteration, meaning this for loop is not going to run the first iteration, because the value here is 0, and the number we put in the range function is not included. But guess what? The second time, it's going to change. The value of row is going to change. But we're not done here. So once we are done printing all the spaces, I know the first iteration is not going to print any space. So that's fine. But once we're done with that, we need to print the last pound sign. So once we are done with this inner loop iteration, we want to go ahead and print the last pound sign here. And with that, we can go ahead and take and end it. So by default, with that, we can go ahead and end it with a new line, because that's the next thing that's going to happen. After the last pound sign is printed, we go to the next line. So it's fine. We can go ahead and end that with a new line. And by default, the print function ends with a new line. So we don't have to even change anything, because by default, the print function takes the position from where it's at right now to the next line. That's fine. And we also don't want to really separate it with anything, because once you print the pound sign, you're done. Just go to the next line. Don't put a space. Don't put the space here before going to the next line. So change the separator to nothing here too. All right, and let's see if that's going to fix it. So we'll try this and see. But then let me explain the logic. The next time row changes to the next value, or to the second iteration, we know the first time is going to hold 0, but the second time it's going to hold 1, and then it's going to print an asterisk. A pound sign. I keep on saying an asterisk. A pound sign. But this time, when we enter the inner loop, row is going to hold the value of row, which is 1, meaning it's going to iterate one time, because when we type in 1 here, we basically have a range from 0, just 0. Okay, this last number is not included. We have a range from 0 to 0, just 0, meaning it's going to iterate one time. So meaning we're going to have a space. It's going to print a space, one space, end it with nothing, separate it with nothing, and then it's going to, once it's done with all the spaces, it's going to print an asterisk, which is this asterisk, separate it with nothing. The print function enter the new line, so we go to the new line. Row is going to be incremented to the next value, which is 2. We know that outer loop is printed 6 times, so we know that we're going to at least print these 6 asterisks. These 6 pound signs. But then when the row value is changed to 2, and then we get to this inner loop, row is going to hold 2, meaning we have a range from 0 to 1, 0 and 1. This last number is not included, meaning 0 and 1 is 2 times. Okay, that's 0 and 1, 2 times. So meaning it's going to print 2 spaces here, and then end it with nothing, separate it with nothing, and then print the pound sign. And then separate it with nothing, end it with a new line. We go to the next line. Now, let me change this back to row. When row reaches its last number, this basically creates a range from 0 to 5. So the last number row is going to hold is 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So when we are here in rows 5, we print an asterisk. When we get to this inner loop, row is going to hold 5, meaning we are creating a range from 0 to 4. This last number is not included. And 0 to 4, when you count it, you have 5 items. You have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. When you count it, you have 5 items there. Meaning this inner loop is going to iterate 5 times, and each time it's going to print 5 spaces. And that's why it's going to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 spaces. It's going to end it with nothing each time it prints a space. Each time it prints a space, separate it with nothing. And once it's done with inner loop, printing all the spaces, print a pound sign, pound sign, separate it with nothing, and then end it with a new line character. So the case is going to be on the next line, but nothing is going to happen after that, because the outer loop is not going to run again when it's increased to 6. This outer loop is going to basically iterate 6 times from 0 to 5. That's the range it creates. Okay, so let's try this. I'm not sure if we're going to have new lines breaking it, but let's try this and see what happens. So I'm going to go ahead and save this in where I save all the files. So on the desktop, and this is going to be the last program in chapter 4. So we go to chapter 5 soon. That's very exciting. Okay, so I'll create a folder for this one, and I'll call it. Did I do that for the other one? I did nested loops pattern triangle. I'll call this nested loops pattern triangle 2, I guess. Triangle 2.py. No, this is just the folder. So, and then I'll save the same thing here. Oops, should have copied it. And then I'll save this, and then let's see what happens. Okay, so we're a bit off. That's because, I'm sure some of you saw this, that's because I left this as 5. So each time this inner loop was, and I thought we did something wrong, but actually we did something wrong, but I thought we did something else, something different. But that's because when I was just testing it and just trying to explain to you that the last time what row, when I was trying to explain to you the last time what this variable row is going to hold, I left it in here. We want it to be dynamic. Remember, we are using the variable row, but this was when I was explaining that the last row is going to have 5 spaces, or row is going to hold the last 5 as the last number. So each time, what's happening is this inner loop is iterating 5 times, meaning each time it's printing 5 spaces between the first pound sign and the last pound sign. So that's why each time we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. But if I change this to row, now it's dynamic, so it goes back to how I was explaining it, and it's dynamic. Each time row is holding the value of this variable, starting from 0 each time, starting from 0 to 5. Okay, so first time row is going to hold 0, second time row is going to hold 1, third time row is going to hold 3, all the way to 5. Okay, so now let's try this one. And we see it's the same thing as this. So first row has no spaces all the way to the last row. We can compare it, the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows. So we can tell that this is working. And if you wanted to change the rows, all you have to do is just change this to, let's say, 10, and it's going to basically extend it for you, make it bigger. But the question wanted us to do 6 rows. These are 6 rows. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep. Okay. And you count as 6 rows. So we have to change this to 6, and I'm going to run it. So this is the same as this. Okay, so I hope it makes sense. If you have any questions, please comment down below, and I'll do everything to respond to them. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time with the next program soon. All right, then. Bye-bye.